Epictetus was born around 50 CE in Hierapolis, a city in the Roman province of Phrygia, in what is now modern-day Turkey. His early life was marked by hardship, as he was born into slavery. His master, Epaphroditus, was a wealthy freedman of the Emperor Nero, and under his ownership, Epictetus experienced the physical and social limitations imposed on enslaved people in the Roman world. Despite these constraints, he displayed an early inclination toward observation, reflection, and inquiry, characteristics that would later define his philosophical approach. Epictetus's early circumstances instilled in him a deep awareness of human vulnerability, the impermanence of fortune, and the necessity of inner freedom, lessons that became central to his Stoic philosophy. Even as a slave, Epictetus pursued education, learning to read, write, and engage with philosophy. He eventually became a student of Musonius Rufus, a prominent Stoic philosopher in Rome, who recognized Epictetus's intellectual promise and moral seriousness. Under Musonius, Epictetus studied ethics, logic, and the practical application of Stoicism. Stoicism emphasized reason, self-discipline, and the cultivation of virtue as the path to human flourishing, teaching that true freedom lies not in external circumstances, but in mastery over one's own judgments, desires, and impulses. For Epictetus, these lessons were not theoretical, they were a lifeline, a means of asserting moral and spiritual autonomy despite the constraints of slavery. Epictetus's life as a slave was not without suffering. Ancient sources recount that he endured physical hardships, including injury, yet remained steadfast in his philosophical commitment. He reportedly walked with a limp, the result of a severe injury inflicted by his master. Even in such conditions, he pursued study, reflection, and dialogue, demonstrating the Stoic principle that adversity, while unavoidable, cannot diminish the freedom of the rational mind. His experience underlines a fundamental tenet of Stoicism, that external circumstances are beyond complete control, but the human will, reason, and character remain inviolable. Through these trials, Epictetus internalized the distinction between what is within one's power and what is not, a distinction that became the cornerstone of his teaching. Following his manumission, Epictetus began to teach philosophy in Rome. He gained a reputation for moral rigor, clarity of thought, and practical instruction. Unlike some philosophers of his time, who focused on theoretical speculation, Epictetus emphasized the application of philosophy to everyday life. He taught that the goal of human existence is to live according to nature, guided by reason and virtue, and to cultivate inner freedom, regardless of social or material conditions. His lectures often address the challenges of anger, desire, fear, grief, and the pursuit of wealth or status, offering practical guidance for maintaining equanimity and moral integrity. Epictetus's teachings were deeply democratic in spirit. He attracted students from diverse social backgrounds, including both freedmen and elites, men and women alike, emphasizing that the path to virtue was accessible to all who exercised discipline and reason. He held public lectures in a simple setting, often a school or gymnasium, where he engaged students in rigorous discussion and moral exercises. His approach was practical, disciplined, and rooted in experience. Students were trained not merely in philosophical theory, but in the practical skills of judgment, self-restraint, and ethical reflection necessary to navigate the challenges of life. This emphasis on applied philosophy distinguished Epictetus and ensured that his ideas had lasting appeal and practical impact. Epictetus wrote nothing himself, but his teachings were recorded by his student Arrian, whose works, including the Discourses and the Enchiridion, preserve the essence of Epictetus's philosophy. These texts emphasize the cultivation of virtue, the proper understanding of desire and aversion, and the development of an inner fortress of reason. Central to Epictetus' thought is the idea that human beings suffer not from external events themselves, but from the judgments and interpretations they attach to them. By correcting these judgments and focusing on what is within one's control, individuals can achieve tranquility, moral clarity, and freedom from destructive passions. This practical Stoicism offers a guide for enduring adversity, mastering the self, and living ethically in a world of uncertainty and impermanence. Epictetus' philosophy extended to social and political life, though he advocated a form of moral detachment from worldly ambition. He believed that ethical conduct should guide human interactions and that one's responsibilities to family, community, and fellow human beings must be exercised in accordance with reason and virtue. While he accepted the necessity of participating in civic life, he cautioned against attachment to wealth, power, or public approval. He emphasized that moral worth is determined not by status or success, but by adherence to virtue, rational judgment, and the pursuit of a good life. Epictetus offered both an ethical and psychological framework for navigating a complex and often unjust world. Throughout his life, Epictetus confronted political turmoil and social instability. In 93 CE, the Emperor Domitian expelled philosophers from Rome, forcing Epictetus to relocate to Nicopolis in Epirus, in northwestern Greece. There, he established a school and continued to teach, attracting students from across the Roman world. His lectures remained focused on practical ethics, guiding individuals in the cultivation of self-discipline, resilience, and moral clarity. Despite displacement, exile, and the vicissitudes of fortune, Epictetus maintained the Stoic ideal of inner freedom, demonstrating that the mind's capacity for virtue is independent of external circumstance. His own life exemplified the principles he taught: endurance of hardship, commitment to moral excellence, and the cultivation of rational detachment from events beyond one's control. Epictetus' teachings exerted profound influence on later generations. Roman elites, Christian thinkers, and philosophers of the Renaissance and Enlightenment studied his works for guidance in ethics, leadership, and personal conduct. His practical approach to Stoicism emphasized the cultivation of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in daily life, offering a model of ethical living under conditions of constraint and adversity. The Enchiridion distilled these lessons into concise guidance, emphasizing that individuals must accept the limits of what they can control while acting virtuously in all circumstances. Epictetus' enduring appeal lies in the universality of his insights. His principles apply equally to rulers and slaves, wealthy and poor, free and oppressed, offering a path to inner freedom through rational understanding and moral discipline. Epictetus died around 135 CE in Nicopolis, leaving a legacy that transcended his immediate historical context. He transformed personal adversity, the experience of slavery, and exile into a foundation for moral insight, demonstrating that true freedom is the cultivation of reason and virtue. His life exemplified the century's Stoic distinction between external circumstances, which are beyond one's complete control, and the inner life of the rational mind, which can achieve autonomy, peace, and ethical clarity regardless of fortune. Through his teachings, Epictetus provided a blueprint for enduring hardship, mastering desire, confronting fear, and cultivating the qualities necessary for a good and flourishing life. Epictetus is remembered not for wealth, political power, or social status, but for his practical wisdom and moral example. Born a slave, he became one of the most influential philosophers of his age, demonstrating that the cultivation of virtue, self-discipline, and rational understanding can transcend the limitations of birth, circumstance, and external fortune. His life and teachings illustrate that true freedom lies in mastery of the self, that ethical excellence is attainable in every condition, and that philosophy, when practiced with rigor and sincerity, provides both guidance and solace in the face of adversity. Epictetus remains a central figure in Stoicism, exemplifying the enduring relevance of moral discipline, reasoned judgment, and inner tranquility in a world marked by uncertainty, injustice, and impermanence.